Hey everyone, I'm Rachel from Wild Backyard Soaps. Thanks for joining me today. It's a little bit windy, but that's not going to stop me because I am making Coffee Date, my absolute favorite soap bar of all time. It smells amazing. It's a little bit expensive, but that's because it uses real cocoa butter, coffee butter, and coffee essential oil. And I've additionally added a little bit of coffee fragrance in this. So the bottom layer is going to be colored with cocoa powder, the middle layer with some copper mica, and the top layer with some kaolin clay. And then I'm going to mix in some coffee grounds and some coffee beans on top just for fun. And instead of using just plain water, I actually brewed some coffee and 2/3 of it I froze, and I'm mixing that in with the lye, and that will help it to cool down faster and keep the coffee from burning. And then the other third of the coffee I'm going to mix in with the oils. And then one tip, cocoa butter does have a much higher melting point, so I actually microwaved that separately just to help it melt faster before I combined it with the other oils. So give that a try if you're having trouble and feeling like it's taking forever to get everything to temp and melted. Okay, I think those are all of my tips, so let's get started making this beautiful guy.
I can hear the demons call when they do what they do. And now I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. I just gotta get through, I just gotta get through. Cause I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. Sometimes I feel like all all is lost, but I know it's not true. I wanna put up all my walls cause I'm not in the mood, but then I cut myself off from the rest of the room. I know that time can heal it all if you're patient and soon it can all be worth it, all the searching. Pain is never real.
So that was horrible. I was trying a different coffee fragrance oil for the first time, and this has never happened to me, but it like seized up so bad. I've never hustled butt in my life like that before, and I didn't even fully get the bottom layer in. And so I have a little leftover soap now that I'm just gonna toss, but I'm so sad because I like absolutely did not want to lose this batch. So this is as good as it's gonna get this time. Of course, this would happen the one time that I'm like trying to make a video about this, right? So I'm just gonna pop some coffee beans on top. It'll be fine. It's just like it's gonna have a rustic textured layer to it. And I wanted to add more kaolin clay, and then it like spilled because I was panicking. So that is just the story of my life. And now I'm like all shaky and can't even hold the camera still. Oh my word. Talk about... This is just what happens. This is the soap life. I'm showing you the real soap adventures because it could happen to you, and then at least you know what to do and that it can happen, and then you don't feel quite so bad because it's happened to other people that have done this a lot more. So it's all good. It'll be fine. It'll still smell amazing. It'll still work great. It even looks cool still. Maybe I should rename this one like Coffee Panic or like Caffeine Overload or something. And it feels pretty hot. I don't know why. It's not any hotter than most of the soaps that I do, but I don't think I'm going to keep this on the heating pad for very long because I'm afraid it's going to crack. So I'm just going to do the heating pad just for a little bit, and I'll spray it with isopropyl alcohol and then call it good. And we'll come back and unmold this in a few days and see how those rustic looking layers are going to end up turning out. See you soon. Stay calm and make soap. All right, it's been 3 days now, and after further reflection, I think I know part of the reason why the soap accelerated so quickly this time. I added that fresh brewed coffee into it, and I felt it and thought that it was cool enough to add, but I never actually took the temperature of the coffee. So I'm wondering if it was actually too hot, and that's part of the reason why it started thickening up so quickly, in addition to adding a coffee fragrance oil that I hadn't used before. So that was pretty gutsy of me to try to make this video using something I hadn't used before, but I consider this a learning lesson. I'm okay taking risks and trying new things because, let's be honest, most of you out there that are watching these videos are probably newer soap makers, or you're like me and like to try new recipes all the time. And I'm going to just take this as a learning lesson because every time you try a new recipe, you're throwing in some new variables you may not have used before. New fragrances, new colorants, new oils, maybe you're soaping at a different temperature than you soaped before. So all of these different factors can affect how your soap turns out. And so when I make these videos, sometimes I'm trying new things I haven't done before and it doesn't go the way I want. But I share them anyways because you can learn from my mistakes and hopefully not make the same ones. Since we're all trying new things, and I hate to waste all of those ingredients on a recipe and then have the soap not turn out right. Now, thankfully, it's still usable. It just might not be as pretty, and I might not be able to sell it on my shop. So this is what happened. You can see it was so thick that, especially on the ends, like there's definitely these little lines. And then I didn't even force gel phase on this coffee soap. I did not put it in the oven at all. I did not put it on the heating pad at all. I literally just put a cardboard box over it and sprayed the top just so it wouldn't get any soda ash. And it still cracked. So that's a big clue that it was too hot. So I think that's why adding the coffee too hot without measuring it first was part of the factor on all that. So make sure that you soap at a cooler temperature. And then a couple other things you can do to keep this from happening to yours when you try it. You could try a slightly higher water to lye ratio. If it's a little bit more liquidy, that gives you more time to work with it because it still comes to trace about the same time, but it doesn't thicken up as quickly. Now, the risk with adding more water is you could get more soda ash if you don't cover and spray it. And sometimes the colors don't pop as nicely. But overall, I would say if you soap at a lower temperature, use a little bit more water, and then don't add the fragrance as soon. I added mine in before I split my batch. I do that sometimes, and other times I split it and then add the fragrance later. I should have waited on this one, but there's no way I could have known that, but that's the risk that you take when you're trying something new. Overall, still smells nice. It's still good soap. But if you want yours to be prettier than mine, try those things when you do the recipe. I'm going to put the original water to lye ratio in the recipe. So if you want to make your water to lye ratio a little bit higher to make up for that, then go ahead and do that. And that should keep your soap from accelerating or speeding up and getting to a thicker trace faster than you want. So that will give you more time to work with it. So let's go cut this open and see what the inside looks like. So it did partially gel even without me insulating or adding extra heat or anything. So since I'm freshly cutting this open, I didn't cut any ahead of time to see. So this will be an interesting experiment. A lot of the times this will happen, and then as it gets exposed to the air, the color lightens up and balances out. So yeah, I mean, it still looks good on the inside, so I'll slice a few more for you. Thank you for joining me on this soapy adventure. Even when we learn things the hard way sometimes, it was really fun, and I will see you in the next one.